Hey there everybody, it's Mike DiLisio, and today I'm going to be reviewing Kinfire Council, Winds of Change. This is coming from designer Kevin Wilson and publisher Incredible Dream. This is the first expansion for Kinfire Council, and it was actually released at the same time as the base game during a crowdfunding campaign. This is an expansion that adds some new elements to the game, new resource, also gives you the opportunity to play the game cooperatively or solo. So let's head down to the table. I'm not going to be doing an overview in the standard way. I'm just going to be showing you the new elements that this game adds. If you want to know how to play the actual base game, I'll link the review to that game in the description of this video. So let's head to the table and find out what this adds. Alright, so let's look at what makes up this first expansion for Kinfire Council, Winds of Change. One of the things it adds is 3 new lighthouse locations that you could add to the ones from the base game. You would just shuffle these in and discard down to 5, returning the ones you don't use to the box. One of the things that you'll see on this particular lighthouse is it offers you a new resource, which in this game, with this expansion, is called Favor. So there are now Favor tokens that you can add into the game, and they work basically like the Magic Wild resource. You can even use them in place of the Magic Wild resource, but there is a cost. Every time you use one of these Favor tokens, you actually add 2 points to the cult faction in the game, so there's a risk and reward there with using those tokens. You also get some new threat cards that you can add into the game, and with these threat cards there are going to be some new tiles that will be put on the board based on which of these threats come out. You also have some new research cards, so you can just add these to your research deck, and you can do that right away from the first game and just have those in there. They are going to be utilizing that new Favor resource, as you might expect. You also get 21 new decree cards, and 3 of them are just standard decree cards that you would just add into the regular deck. But the other 18 are what are known as rezoning laws, okay? And so these are all rezoning laws. You can see that across the top of the card there. What you're going to do with this is at the start of the game, you're going to randomly shuffle 4 of these rezoning laws into the decree deck. And then at the end of the game, you make sure to remove them, put them back, so that there's never more of these in the decree deck at once. What do these rezoning cards do? Well, they're going to have you swapping map tiles, depending upon the number shown on the card, with map tiles that are alternate that also come with the game. And so here you see some alternate map tiles there for the game. Let me zoom in a little bit on those. And so if you were to get, for example, that rezoning law, you would change out the standard location number 3 in the game and replace it with this new one, in this case, the tumbles. And here you can see that it's including the Favor that also is that new resource that comes with the game. You're also going to get a new Shady Dealer tile that you replace the initial one with, because again, it has accountability for those Favor tokens that are also added in this game. So now that you have these new locations that can be added to the game, you're going to get new location guides that give you the information for each of those buildings, just like you had in the standard version of the game. You're also going to be getting some new player aid cards, and this is going to be accounting for the new resource Favor, but it's also going to be giving information on how to play the game in a new way. Now with this Winds of Change expansion, you can play the game in a cooperative play mode or a solo play mode, which is really just a variation of the cooperative game mode. To play the game cooperatively or solo, the main thing that you're going to be adding are these Cult Decree cards, and this is going to be a new deck of cards that you will add to the game. So when you are setting up your docket during Sunrise phase and you have the 2 regular decrees that you turn over, you're also going to be adding a Cult Decree, and these have different kind of aspects to them. The first thing is that they're all going to start with a number of votes already cast. In this case, this particular Cult Decree card already has 4 votes cast for it. So to be able to keep this from passing, by the end of the round, you'd have to have at least 4 votes to keep that from happening. Also, it's going to have an immediate effect that happens at the bottom. So for each of these cards, they're going to have a number of votes at the top already cast and some kind of instant effect. And you can see there's a number of different of these types of cult decree cards, okay? And so the idea in the cooperative or solo game is that you have to end the game with more points than the cult. In the cooperative game, the cult faction just cannot be the highest scoring faction. If they are, then all of the players lose. In the solo game, you have to have more points than the cultists. And you can adjust the difficulty by the number of hidden threats that you have in the game to begin with. And you have that new information, as I showed you briefly before, on this new player aid, where it's going to kind of show you also how some icons will change briefly because they wouldn't apply in the solo or cooperative game. All right, so that's the general idea behind this expansion. It adds some new resources like the favor tokens. You've got new decrees. You've got a way to play it cooperatively or solo. And you've got some new basic cards that you can add into the basic game, new locations. All right, let's head back up and I'll let you know what I think. All right, so there you see kind of what this expansion adds to the game. It is modular to an extent, being that you don't have to incorporate all the elements. You don't need to play the game cooperatively to be able to utilize this expansion because it adds other elements to it. But if you did want to play it that way, now you've got that opportunity as well. So let me just talk a little bit about kind of what I think the strengths and weaknesses of this expansion are. The things that I like, I definitely like the new favor tokens. I like that you now have another wild resource, but it gives more power to the cult. And if there was one kind of element of the base game that I found is that I never often makes no sense, but I often didn't feel a huge threat from the cult faction when I played the game. It was usually pretty easy to kind of stay ahead of them, and a lot of times people were hesitant to join up with the cult, usually because they weren't really amassing a lot of points. Well, now when you add this in, it makes the cult a little bit more of a dangerous kind of a element in the game, and I think it makes it perhaps more likely that people might want to kind of piggyback and join in there. That's if you're playing the game competitively, of course. So I like that element quite a bit. The new locations, the redistricting, I think that's really, really cool because essentially what it does is it kind of makes your version of the game unique to anyone else's because those rezoning cards are going to come out in a random order and you know, you kind of seed the game with from 1 to 3 new locations the first time you play with this expansion, but then you don't know how many you might be adding in subsequent game sessions. So I think that's a really cool element. Some of the new locations are really fun. They a lot of times will play around with these favor tokens as well. The cooperative game and the solo game, I think, work very well. It's a game that I still feel at its heart is a competitive game, but I like the way that they kind of made it work in a cooperative sense. And one of the reasons why it works better is because they did beef up the cult ability strength with this new expansion. I mean, especially with those cult decree cards, they certainly add a lot of things you have to be dealing with, but just the incorporation of the favor tokens in there also, you know, by their nature is going to be making the cult a more viable faction to deal with. And so I like the way that works. So, and as in the base game, the production is extremely impressive. Now, this is the deluxe version. You saw those favor tokens were the screen printed wooden pieces. The standard edition would be cardboard, but even the standard edition, I think, is very, very good quality. So I do want to state that up front. So the weakness, if there is a weakness to this expansion, it is that I'm not sure it would be worth it if you're not going to be playing it cooperatively. Because the main benefit, I suppose, in a competitive game are the things I said, the new locations and the favor tokens. And they're cool. They're very cool. I like them a lot, but it makes it harder for me to strongly recommend if you're only going to be playing it as a cooperative, or excuse me, as a competitive game, because I do feel like a big part of this is also this new mode. It doesn't mean that I don't recommend this expansion. I actually think it's a terrific expansion, all things considered. I'm going to be giving it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a really, really strong expansion. But you do have to kind of ask yourself if the new elements that are there for competitive are enough for you to take the plunge on this. And maybe it is. I mean, again, I like everything it adds to the competitive game, but I almost wonder if there's enough there if you're not going to be also playing it, or at least trying it once in a while, as a cooperative or a solo game. So that really is going to be kind of your mileage may vary, but it is a question that I feel is out there for it. So overall, really, really solid expansion, 8 out of 10. I really like being able to kind of beef up what I already feel was a very, very robust Euro game with some unique twists. And this certainly kind of adds more of that to it. All right, that's going to do it for me. This is Mike DiLisio. I'll see you on the next one.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.